As someone who creates a lot of technical documentation and even some user guides, I always try to follow the KISS acronym. You know, keep it simple, stupid. Let's rewind that, remove the comma, and like change my delivery because keep it simple, stupid. Much better, I hope. But the whole point of that is to really keep your users engaged and able for them to follow along during your presentation, so that way they have a better chance of retaining the information. So I'm going to show you how to create static animated outline effects today in Davinci Resolve. All right, so for this particular demonstration, and you can laugh if you want to, I'm going to use a blank template that's pretty much following a previous presentation that I did a while back. And so we're going to use the static animated outline effect. And static just means it's not going to move. It's going to outline a particular item that I want my users to look at, and then it's going to disappear. So there are tracking features and things that you can add to your outlines, but we're just going to stay with the static portion of it for now. And to get started, we have to make sure that our video is highlighted. And this time we're going to come down to the Fusion tab. Now the Fusion tab, as a quick disclaimer, has a lot of complex elements that you can play with. And so it can get very overwhelming very quickly. So always start with the basics. And then as you feel more comfortable, you can start to dibble-dabble with other things. So as you see here, we have a large node pane. And this is similar to what we had on the color tab in our previous video. But by default, when you come in here, you'll have two nodes. You'll have a media in and you'll have a media out. You'll also notice somewhere in the middle of the screen, you have some power window options. So we have our ellipse tool again, our rectangular tool, our polygon, things of that nature. And we also have our timeline, so we can just click and drag our timeline throughout the course of the video and use that to assist us with making our animated outline effects. And now I'm going to pull back the video a little bit, and I'm going to find a good point of reference for one, mainly where my mouse is at, but more so on what shape of a power window I need to use that's going to best fit this particular example. So this is more like a rectangular or square shaped power window, so I have a good idea what to use now. After you identified those two things, we need to make sure that we set the foundation for what kind of color we're going to use with that outline. So to do that, we're going to make sure that our media in node is highlighted, and we're going to create a power background node. As you can tell, the whole screen just went black. It's been filled with a black solid color. It also created a merge node and a background node. My OCD needs to fix this real quick. All right. So now you want to get rid of the background because we can't see anything. So what we'll do is we're going to create our power window. So we're going to find our rectangular power window, and we're going to click on that. You can see our screen again. Now our power window is a completely solid filled color. So to change that, we're going to come over here to our control screen, or our little pane, and we're going to uncheck solid. And that completely takes away the solid fill. But we want the outline to be colorful, right? No problem. We can definitely do that. So we're going to come back to background, and I want to change the color. So we'll come up to here into our background pane, click on the little black fill box, and pick any color you want. Now, keep in mind, we're up in an area where it's completely solid purple. So for this box, I'm probably not going to use the same color just because you won't be able to see it. So we'll go with like maybe a white. Notice how nothing happened. That means we have to come back to our power window, select that, and now we actually have to add a border width. So you have border width and you have soft edges. So there's two options and two ways that you can increase or decrease the width of this border. You can use a little knob, or you can just kind of click and hover and drag left or right. This is better for fine tuning than using the actual dial, just because it gets crazy very quickly. But now we have our outline, which is great. Now, as far as the soft edging, This is just going to make it look a little less abrasive, more like a natural glow. So we'll want to decrease the size. So you can hover your mouse over any portion of the box, click, and just bring it in. You can scale down vertically as well. And then to move it, the object itself, just hover right in the middle and bring it up to your point of reference. Zoom in. I zoomed in a lot, a whole lot, maybe too much. And then continue to downscale that. Center it. And we went a little crazy with the soft edging. So we're just going to decrease the soft edging. The border's a little crazy as well. Go with a real thin. Should work. That. Okay, and if we zoom out, you can now tell that we have our nice little outline. But now we have to animate the outline. There's a couple ways we can do that as well. But we need to find a good entry point and exit point for this power window. So when it's going to show up and when it's going to go away. We're going to use our timeline to help us indicate that. So if we just kind of click and drag that timeline, you'll see that just past 1,000 keyframes, this extra window pops up. So by then, I'll want this window to be completely invisible. Let's drag it about there. And now that I have my exit point, I need to find my entry point. I'm going to scroll out a little bit and drag the timeline backwards. And the mouse seems to move just past 750 keyframes. So this will be my entry point. So now that we have identified entry and exit, we need to set keyframes for each of these positions so Davinci knows what to do. So now come back down to our power window node, make sure that's highlighted, and head back over to the control pane and identify level and identify your length. I want you to drag level all the way down to 0. Add the keyframe, which is directly to the right of that. Come down to length, drag the dial all the way down to 0, and add another keyframe. Now, if you noticed, our power window is gone. That's what we want. And if you come back to your timeline and drag it forward a little bit, you'll see a white marker that tells you that it remembered to hide the actual power window. So now we need to be able to have this power window fully visible at a certain point. We'll drag our timeline, and right about here, just below 900 keyframes, when the mouse reaches the actual button, this is when the power window needs to be fully visible. So in order to do that, come back to level, drag the dial all the way up to 1, come back to length, drag it all the way up to 1. And this time, Davinci's going to automatically put a keyframe there for you since you already started and initiated the first keyframe. To verify that it's there, you'll see another white marker. But did it work? Well, let's drag the keyframe interval past the 2 white markers. You'll hit play. You can see that it came up. Not the best example. Try it one more time. Zoom in for you. Perfect. So now we have a good solid entry point that's going to direct our user's attention to that particular button. Now we have to make it disappear. So come back and highlight your power window node. And if you recall, we have this extra window that pops up shortly after about 1,000 keyframes. So right there. Now, what I'll do is I'll go back a few keyframes where that white marker is. And I'll tell Davinci, hey, I want you to remember to keep this power window 100% visible up until this point. Now, drag your keyframe forward a little bit. To about there. I'll go one more keyframe back. I'm going to come back up here to level. I'm going to drag the dial all the way to 0. I'm going to drag length all the way to 0. Now, go back. You'll see the power window appear. It'll stay and disappear. And that's it. But the video doesn't end just yet, just because I actually went into the settings for this particular video clip, and I just want to make sure I can show you how to create a new background node with a different color if you choose to go that route, because I know I would, because I want to fit the theme of teams. I'm surprised I didn't stumble over that. Or if you're completely fine just staying with the same color, I'm going to show you how to do that too. So first option, if you decide to keep the same color through the entire video clip, then very simple. Come down here, highlight your background. We know that it's white, just like our power window, and come back and select your other power window. For the setting menu, it's rectangular, so it fits the theme. Click on your power window, scroll out. Remember, when it has a fill and you want to get rid of it, come back over to solid and uncheck solid. And now we have to set our border width, but in case you forget what you set the last width to, come click on your first power window node and come back over here and you'll see 0.0018. Fantastic. Click on your other one, set that value. Now you have the same width that is consistent to the first one. Downscale this here. Zoom up. Adjust your window. I'm gonna moving it just like here. Settings. All right. And now you have your window. So then all you would have to do from this standpoint is just identify when you want it to appear and disappear. So come back. We know that this window pops up right about here. Right? So just past 1,000 and it goes away about maybe 1275. Not a whole lot. So always want it to disappear first. We don't want to know it exists yet. Drop the level, drop the length. Remember, you initiate the first keyframes. And then, let's see here. Right about here. Increase. That is not what I wanted to do. Control Z. And I apologize for the background noise now. That's great. Thank you. They're doing landscaping. Landscaping. My goodness. All right, now we need to continue. So we know that this disappears about here. So remember, we want it to stick around for a second. So make sure that it stays visible. Add your extra keyframes for this one. And then we can drop level and length. Put on your background, pull it back, watch the magic. Okay, so say you don't want that effect. Say you just want it to completely fade away. You don't want it to do a counterclockwise animation. What we can do is highlight that rectangle here, drag your keyframe over to that white marker, and you'll know you're on the right keyframe when you see your keyframe indicators light up. So this time, we're just going to keep length at 1. We're going to keep level at 0. Now I want you to watch the difference. It fades out. Now, in the beginning, it's still going to do its clockwise intro, but it's going to fade out. So, little things to keep in mind. If you don't like the first option, you can always use the second option. And so the last thing I wanted to show you guys was that you just don't want to use or continue the white power window theme. You want to use the purple teams theme. Thought I would have stumbled over that. Surprisingly, I didn't. You will have to, there it is, I stumbled. You will have to create a new background node. So to do that, remember, click on Media In, come up to your background node, click that. As you can see, background 2, merge 2. So just to show you, they're not connected to your first background node. And as you can tell, we already have the black solid fill color. And we're going to keep the same power window that we used, which is going to be rectangular. So click on that. And then come back over to our controls pane, uncheck solid. Now remember, we want to change the color. So come back over to background 2. Come back over to our background pane. Click at the box. Make sure that I can see my color. Need to fix this here. Here we go. Pick screen color. I want it to be exactly verbatim. Select that. And hit OK. And then I still remember the actual settings for our width. So highlight rectangle. Come over to width and put in your desired width. Hard to see now, but it is definitely there. And we'll just, for fun, move it over, check for updates. I think my brain is due for an update here soon. It's been a tough week. Okay. And 10 years later. There you go. There's your power window. So that's it. Just keep in mind that this can be very time consuming, depending on how much you have going on. And I think the most difficult aspect is just setting the keyframes and getting the timing correct and keeping the timing consistent. Other than that, that's it. Okay, now listen. Now that you guys know how to make these static animated outline effects, I'm fully expecting you guys to progress up the chain when it comes to your presentations. Yes, they're not top tier, but it sets the foundation for you as a content creator to grow and even just create and broaden your skill set. But other than that, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, dealing with my struggle bus moments, and I'll see y'all next time.